big questions. Kmart, let's start with you, and let's go to Monday night. Did the Eagles' late season issues carry over from last year to this year?
Yeah, Greeny, how can you say they haven't? They're 2-7 in their last 9 games. We talk about the pass rush not being there. We talk about blown leads, or we talk about lopsided scores that they're unfortunately on the opposite end of. This is a team that is too talented to be, I don't want to say bad, but this inconsistent.
Yeah, well, inconsistent or bad. I mean, the reality is they've been bad. There's two ways to put it.
The end of the game was absolutely bad.
Yeah.
Like, giving away the game like that is ugly. But you're right. They're an incredibly talented team that we thought would figure it out, and we thought that the coordinators would address a lot of their issues, but they're still having some of the same struggles.
Just look at the bottom of the screen, Jeff. They've lost 7 of their last 9 games.
It has not been good, but this would all be solved if our best player, in addition, catches a ball. So let's not overreact to make a catch, and this is all moot.
There were symptoms. I think that's what we were kind of looking at, is when the game is on the line, all the little add-ups that we've all talked about ad nauseum, dating back to last year, and even moments this year, they shine in those last 3 minutes of the game.
We will dive deeply into this a little bit later, because we're going to find out a lot about them by how they respond to what happened. But let's go back to the 3 big questions. That was number 1. Hawk, here's number 2. Looking at their schedule, are the Ravens going to start 0-5?
Yeah, it's not looking pretty looking at the schedule, but they're too talented. I don't think that they start 0-5. I think with Lamar Jackson, obviously Derrick Henry in the backfield, Zay Flowers has played well at times. They're still trying to figure out what this team looks like with Derrick Henry this year. So A, they're too talented. B, the scariest rushing attack in football with the Ravens is going up potentially what looked like the weakest rushing defense on any level in the country last week. So I think the Cowboys are actually an opportunity for the Ravens to get over that hump.
Yeah,
I mean, you're right. They are too talented. I do resent the fact that you only named offensive players when you said they're talented. Matabike can ball, Hamilton can ball, Humphrey can ball, Roquan
Let him know.
can ball. I mean, Trent Simpson's an incredible athlete. They have talent on both sides of the ball, which is why you're right. They're certainly not going to.
So Baltimore and offense aren't synonymous?
No, the Baltimore that I know.
Okay, that's defensive players. They can stop ball.
they can play.
Let's be honest about Baltimore. I talked about them. I thought they were going to take a step back, not for the reasons they did against the Raiders. They had 10-point lead going in the fourth quarter, 11 penalties. That's not a John Harbaugh type coach team. They self-inflicted wounds took this team out. They have to get better from that perspective. I think it's a get-right game with Dallas because they're running defense. But make no mistake, they have to fix their own problems in-house.
Okay, I get all that. 0-5 is just wild to me. They literally could be 3-2. You know, they could beat all of those teams. So So it's 2 games.
Well, they should have beat the team they played last week.
That's the point. They should have beaten the Raiders, and they could have beaten the Chiefs. They were a toe away from beating the Chiefs. They had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Raiders, and now this. All right, third big question. Oh, Jeff Saturday. Did the Cowboys' quiet offseason, as it turned out, doom this roster and this team after all?
Yeah, this is a Super Bowl or bust type season. You talked about Dak, and can he take him to the Super Bowl? They don't have the players around him right now to take them there. That's the problem. You're seeing a team get older and slower as they move forward. They don't want to go outside and address it in free agency. For whatever reason, they thought what they had in-house was better. I think it's showing them their backfield is older. Everything's going to be dependent on Dak and how skillful CeeDee Lamb can be. That's a bad formula in today's NFL.
Before I bring everyone in on this, I just need you to hear this because I need you to explain it to me. Yesterday, Jerry Jones was talking about how badly his team played and how they feel after being blown out at home by the Saints, and this is what he said.
If we've got any albatross around our neck, is that we've been a good to very good team during the season over the last 4 or 5 years with Mike, and we haven't done well in the playoff. So let's trade some challenges during the season for doing well in the playoff, if you want to look at it that way. This doesn't call for a change in the system. It doesn't call for a change in the player as much as it does take what we've learned Sunday. But we can do this, and we can do it with the personnel that we've got out there right now.
I love that man. I love everything about the way he says words. But if I understand what he said at the beginning of that, which I think is the important part, so we've done well in the regular season. We haven't done well in the playoffs. So the solution is let's get our behinds handed to us in the regular season And that will solve.
Let's not make the playoffs.
Our problem.
It's almost like reverse psychology.
We can't stink in the playoffs if we're
not-
not miss the playoffs
All
altogether.
together.
Well, that means
No, because Jerry's grasping at straws here. Like, the thing that he constantly hears about his team is how they are a wonderful regular season team. And then why do we kill them? Because they don't get it done when it counts. So he's leaning on, well, we're facing adversity now. Adversity makes everybody tougher, everybody better. Like, this could actually be a good thing. Do I buy it? Not really. Because essentially, playing poorly or having losses in the regular season doesn't guarantee you a playoff spot. It only makes it tougher. And the opposite is that he's saying it could be true, which is maybe their roster just isn't as good as he thought it was or hoped it would be. Because you talk about symptoms. Like, I was there week 1 when they played the Browns. The takeaway from that game was not that the Cowboys looked great. It was the Browns did not play up to the level that we expected them to. So then you have week 2 happen. So to me, I'm not surprised that the Cowboys are scuffling a little bit because they didn't look like a great team in week 1.
This is not how it works normally. Like, normally the teams that are bad in the regular season are also bad later. Like, the teams that are good, like, it's rarely how it works. It's not a good strategy.
listen. I mean, in their last 2 home games. The funniest stat in the world was that they brought a 16-game home winning streak into this game this past Sunday because those are regular season streaks. The reality is the last 2 games in which they have played at home, they have allowed 92 points. They just gave more money to players who already were playing as well as they could possibly play, which is Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. What reason is there to think they're going to get better? Jeff, a perfect example is you wanted them to go get Derrick Henry last year.
Correct.
They didn't. What did they do instead?
Right. They go back to 2018, get some 2 great backs back in the day, right? And think that the 17-game season is going to be kind to them as we progress along. They spent the least amount in free agency outside of their own players. This is not the formula to get, but there's no addition. And I look at their offensive line. I get they have a young left end, but their offensive line is getting older. Their backs are getting older, and you're putting more on Dak. Defensively, the interior portion of their defense, from the front defensive line all the way to back, is going to give you problems throughout the season.
So the best argument I could make for Jerry potentially making some sense is like this is a wake-up call situation to get your attention. But the problem is we already knew what the issues were. Sometimes it's good to be exposed to what your problems are so you can then address them. We knew what your problems were last year, and you didn't address them. And now we're seeing them unaddressed again, and that, to me, speaks to leadership.
Maybe they thought they addressed them by bringing Mike Zimmer in to run that defense.
Mike Zimmer ain't had a tackle in a long time.
I was going to say, unfortunately, Mike Zimmer doesn't have the lateral quickness and strength to play defensive tackle because that's honestly what they've needed. They've needed it since last year. They needed it going into this year. And the simulated pressures, which Mike Zimmer is known for, the disguises in coverage pre-snap, does not matter if a team can run it down your throat, right? Because then it also makes your offense one-dimensional, like we pointed out. Like, the offense wasn't doing bad in the first half of that game, but then it got so out of hand, they had to start tossing it around the yard. 6 drives, 6 touchdowns for the New Orleans Saints. That's bad on any level. Pop Warner, high school, Division III, that's really bad defense, and you can't offense your way out of that. Shout out to Division III,
So this back to week 1, because standing in the Cowboys locker room after the game, guys like Micah Hyde and DeMarcus Lawrence were talking about how Mike Zimmer got in everybody's head. Like, they were praised for that performance. Mike Zimmer was praised, like, oh, now the Cowboys, look at how they played. A physical Browns team, they were able to beat them. They were able to keep Deshaun Watson, off his mark. This is a Browns team that didn't have Nick Chubb. They had Jerome Ford starting, like Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, both tackles.
They had. And so, again, when you think that they're that great off of this performance, now everybody's left to wonder what happened.
So people will look at this. Let's teach a little football from some people who would know. People will look at this and they'll say, Cowboys defense can't hold up at the point of attack. Ravens, Derrick Henry, probably the last person in the world you want to see in that circumstance. Should this just be a game where the Ravens pound and pound and pound it with Henry?
Absolutely. You make them show you they can't stop. They bring more people to the line of scrimmage, which opens up deep shots for Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers on the back end. And so as you're looking at the way the Ravens should, but the problem